There's something I want to tell you tonight, and I want you to lean in close, because what I'm about to share with you will either be forgotten in 5 minutes, or it will change the rest of your life. The choice, as always, will be yours. Let me ask you a question before we begin. What is it that you want? Not what you think you should want, not what your family wants for you, not what looks good on a resume or sounds impressive at a dinner party. I am asking you, right now, in the quiet of your own mind, what do you really want? Most people cannot answer that question. And that, my friend, is the first tragedy. Not that they do not get what they want. The first tragedy is that they never even decided what it was. Here is what most people do not understand. Wanting something and deciding for something are two completely different forces. Wanting is a wish floating in the wind. Deciding is a stake driven into the ground. The wind can carry a wish anywhere it pleases, but nothing moves a stake once it has been driven deep enough. Let me tell you about two young men I knew many years ago. They started in nearly identical circumstances. Same neighborhood, same modest income, same lack of connection, same ordinary education. If you had met them both at 22 years old, you would not have been able to guess which one would end up living a life of abundance and which one would still be complaining about the same problems 30 years later. One of them wanted a better life. He said it often. He said it at parties. He said it when he was frustrated. He said it when he saw someone else's success and felt that familiar sting of comparison. He wanted it. He really did. But wanting was as far as he ever went. The other young man did something different. He sat down one evening by himself with nothing but a notebook and a pen, and he made a decision. He did not just want a better life. He decided exactly what that life would look like. He decided what he was willing to do to get it, and he decided what he was no longer willing to tolerate. Same starting point, same intelligence, same opportunities, more or less. But one man drifted, and one man decided. Years later, the difference between their lives was not a difference of luck. It was the difference between a wish and a decision. Think about it. How many years have you spent wanting something without ever deciding for it? I am not asking to shame you. I am asking because I once asked myself the very same question, and the answer humbled me. Here is the lesson hidden inside that story. The universe, life, fate, call it whatever you like, does not respond to your wanting. It responds to your deciding. The moment you truly decide, something shifts. Your posture changes. Your conversations change. Your habits begin slowly at first to rearrange themselves around the decision you made. Now, let me tell you something that might surprise you. Getting what you want has very little to do with the want itself, and almost everything to do with who you become while pursuing it. Let that sink in for a moment. You do not get what you want by chasing the thing. You get what you want by becoming the kind of person for whom that thing is a natural result. A farmer does not get a harvest by wanting one. He gets a harvest by becoming the kind of person who prepares the soil in the cold months when no one is watching, who plants the seed when it is inconvenient, who waters and weeds long before there is any visible reward, who shows up every single day whether he feels inspired or not. If you want the harvest, my friend, you must first become the farmer. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, always. This is the part where most people quietly give up, even if they never say it out loud. Because becoming the farmer is hard. Wanting the harvest is easy. Becoming the kind of person who deserves it, that takes something most people are not willing to give. Let me ask you something. Are you willing to become someone new in order to receive what you say you want? Not better looking, not luckier. Someone new on the inside, in your habits, in your discipline, in your daily decisions. There is a moment that comes to every person who is serious about their life. A moment when they realize that the life they are living is simply the sum total of the choices they have already made. Not their intentions, not their excuses, their actual choices, repeated daily, compounding quietly in the background like interest on a debt or interest on an investment, depending on which choices you made. You will look back one day and you will understand this with painful clarity. The version of you sitting here right now is being built brick by brick, decision by decision, today. Not tomorrow when you finally feel motivated. Today, in this very ordinary, unremarkable day that feels like it does not matter. Here is what most people get backwards. They believe that someday, when conditions are perfect, when they have more time, more money, more confidence, more support, that is when they will finally begin building the life they want. But conditions are never going to be perfect. Conditions were not perfect for anyone who ever built something worth having. Let me tell you about discipline, because nobody likes that word, but everybody loves what it produces. Discipline is the bridge between what you want and what you actually get. It is not glamorous. Nobody puts discipline on a vision board. But I promise you, every single person you admire, every person whose life makes you whisper, I wish I had that, paid for it with discipline that no one ever saw. You see the harvest. You do not see the early mornings. You see the success. You do not see the 1,000 quiet repetitions that came before it. You see the confidence. You do not see the years of stumbling that built it. This is why so many people quit too early. They expect the harvest to show up shortly after the planting. But life does not work that way. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you stop being surprised by it. And the sooner you stop quitting right before the breakthrough that was only days or weeks away. Let me tell you something about the price of success, because everyone wants success, but almost no one wants to pay for it. And yes, there is always a price. The question is never whether you will pay a price. The question is which price you will pay. The price of discipline, paid in small amounts over a long period of time, or the price of regret, paid in one devastating lump sum at the end of your life. I would rather pay daily discipline. It is a smaller, lighter, more manageable currency. Regret, on the other hand, is a debt that collects interest every single year you avoid paying it. Here is a truth that will set you free if you let it. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not broken beyond repair. You are simply standing at a crossroads where one road continues exactly as you have been living, and the other road requires you to finally become the person who decides, the person who disciplines themselves, the person who shows up when no one is clapping. Now let us talk about clarity, because clarity is the silent partner of every great achievement. Most people want everything and nothing at the same time. They want to be healthier, wealthier, more confident, more respected, more peaceful, all at once, all vaguely, all without a single specific plan attached to any of it. And because the want is vague, the results, if they come at all, are vague too. But the moment you get specific, something remarkable begins to happen. The mind, which was previously wandering through a fog, suddenly has a target. And the mind, once it has a target, begins working on that target whether you consciously think about it or not. Write it down. I am serious. Take a piece of paper, an actual piece of paper, and write down exactly what you want. Not someday, not eventually. Specifically, and with a date attached to it, there is something almost magical about ink on paper. A wish that lives only in your head can quietly disappear the moment life gets noisy. But a wish that lives on paper that you can look at, touch, revise, and revisit has a way of refusing to be forgotten. Now let me tell you something deeper about clarity, because seeing your goal on paper is only the beginning. You must also learn to see it in your imagination, clearly enough that it begins to feel familiar long before it becomes real. I once knew a young woman who wanted to own a small business of her own. For years she spoke about it the way people speak about a vacation they will probably never take, with a little sigh and a faraway look. Then one day something shifted in her. She began describing it differently. She stopped saying, I wish I could, and started saying, when I open my doors. Notice the difference. One phrase keeps the dream at a distance. The other phrase pulls it close enough to start preparing for it. This is not about pretending something is true before it happens. It is about training your mind to treat the goal as inevitable rather than improbable, because the way you speak about your future has a quiet but undeniable influence on the way you behave in your present. When a goal feels distant and unlikely, you treat it carelessly. You skip the small steps because deep down you do not really believe they matter. But when a goal feels close, almost inevitable, you suddenly start treating every small step as sacred because you understand it is part of a story that is already unfolding. This is why I tell people to spend a few quiet minutes each day simply picturing the outcome they want, not as a fantasy to escape into, but as a rehearsal for the life they are building. The mind cannot always tell the difference between a vivid rehearsal and a lived experience, and it begins preparing your habits, your confidence, and your decisions accordingly. Let me tell you why most people never do this simple exercise. It is not because they do not know about it. Almost everyone has heard the advice to write down their goals. They do not do it because writing it down makes it real, and making it real means they can no longer hide behind the comfortable fog of someday. Someday is the most dangerous word in the human language. Someday I will start. Someday I will change. Someday I will finally go after what I want. Someday has buried more dreams than failure ever did. Because failure at least teaches you something. Someday teaches you nothing. It simply waits patiently while your life quietly passes by. I want you to notice something about the word patience, because we are about to talk about persistence, and people often confuse the two. Patience is passive. It waits for something to happen. Persistence is active. It makes something happen again and again in the face of disappointment until the outcome finally arrives. Let me tell you about persistence the way I have come to understand it after watching hundreds of lives unfold. Persistence is not the absence of doubt. It is moving forward despite the doubt. It is not the absence of fear. It is taking the next step while the fear is still sitting right there in your chest. Anyone who has ever achieved something meaningful has at some point stood at the edge of quitting. They felt foolish. They felt tired. They wondered if they had wasted years on something that would never work. And then, for reasons they often cannot fully explain, they took one more step. And that one more step turned out to be the step that changed everything. Here is the cruel and beautiful truth about success. It often looks right up until the very end, exactly like failure. The difference between the person who succeeds and the person who quits is sometimes nothing more than one final attempt that the quitter never made. You will never know, on any given day, whether you are one step away from a breakthrough or 100 steps away. This uncertainty is exactly why persistence is so rare and so powerful. It requires you to keep moving without the comfort of knowing exactly how close you are. Let me ask you something important. How many things in your life did you abandon not because they were impossible, but because they became inconvenient? Be honest with yourself. This is not a moment for comfortable lies. Most failure is not dramatic. It does not announce itself with a crash. It arrives quietly in the form of skipped days, lowered standards, and convenient excuses that feel, at the time, completely reasonable. I am not interested in shaming you for the times you gave up. I have given up on things too. I am interested in something far more useful, which is making sure that starting tomorrow, you understand exactly what it takes to not give up again. Here's what it takes. It takes a reason bigger than your excuses. It takes a vision so clear that on the hard days you can still see it even when you cannot feel it. And it takes a willingness to be uncomfortable on purpose for a season, because comfort and growth have never once lived in the same house. Let me tell you about comfort, because comfort is the great thief of potential. Comfort whispers softly. It does not yell. It simply says, you have done enough for today. Rest a little longer, try again tomorrow. And there is nothing inherently wrong with rest. But there is something deeply wrong with mistaking comfort for fulfillment. You were not built simply to be comfortable. You were built to grow, to stretch, to become more than you currently are. And growth, by its very nature, requires discomfort. There is no version of becoming stronger that does not involve some kind of resistance. Think about the body for a moment. Muscle does not grow from ease. It grows from resistance, from tearing down and rebuilding, from doing the difficult repetition rather than the easy one. The mind and the spirit operate by the exact same law. You do not become strong by avoiding difficulty. You become strong by moving through it again and again until what once felt unbearable now feels routine. Let me tell you about the people who get everything they want in life, because I have studied them carefully and the pattern is almost always the same. They take responsibility for everything in their life, even the parts that were not entirely their fault. Not because it is fair, but because it is useful. The moment you say, this happened to me, and there was nothing I could do, you surrender your power. The moment you say, this happened, and now what am I going to do about it? You reclaim it. This is not about blaming yourself for every misfortune. It is about refusing to be a passenger in your own life. There is an enormous difference between fault and responsibility. You may not be at fault for where you started, but you are absolutely responsible for where you finish. Here is a question worth sitting with tonight. If nothing in your life changes over the next 5 years, would that be acceptable to you? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort, used correctly, is one of the most powerful motivators a human being can experience. Let me tell you something about time, because time is the one resource you cannot earn back, no matter how much money you eventually make. People will spend their entire health trying to gain wealth and then spend their entire wealth trying to gain back their health. People will spend years avoiding a difficult conversation only to spend the rest of their life regretting the years they lost to silence. Time does not wait for your readiness. It simply continues, with or without your participation. This is why I tell you, do not wait until you feel ready. Readiness is a feeling, and feelings are notoriously unreliable. Begin while you are still afraid. Begin while you still have doubts. Begin while the conditions are imperfect, because they will always be imperfect. And the people who succeed are not the ones who waited for perfect conditions. They are the ones who built their success inside imperfect conditions. Now let me talk to you about habits, because habits are the architecture of your future, whether you design them on purpose or let them happen by accident. You do not decide your future in one dramatic moment. You decide it in the ordinary, repeated moments that no one else is watching. The choice to wake up early or sleep in. The choice to read or to scroll. The choice to have the difficult conversation or avoid it one more day. The choice to keep your word to yourself even when it is inconvenient. These small choices feel insignificant in the moment they are made. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous or so powerful, depending on which direction you push them. A single rainy day does not create a flood, but enough of them repeated will reshape the entire landscape. I want you to think of your habits as votes. Every single day, you are casting votes for the kind of person you are becoming. One vote will not decide the election, but a consistent pattern of votes repeated over months and years will absolutely determine the outcome. So I ask you, what is your daily voting record? Are you casting votes for discipline or for comfort, for growth or for distraction, for your future self or for your present mood? Here is the moment of truth I want to leave you with. You already know what you want. You have known for a while. The information was never the missing piece. What has been missing is the decision, the discipline, and the willingness to become someone new in order to receive it. You can keep wanting it from a distance, admiring it the way you admire a house you will never buy, a body you will never build, a relationship you will never repair, a dream you will never chase. Or you can decide right now in this very moment that the distance between you and what you want is going to close starting today. Let me tell you something about today, because today is the only day you actually have. Not someday, not next year, not when things settle down. Today. If you do nothing else after hearing this, I want you to do one simple thing. I want you to decide, not wish, not hope, decide. Write down exactly what you want, attach a date to it, and then ask yourself honestly what kind of person would naturally deserve that outcome. And then begin today in some small way becoming that person. You will face resistance, you will face doubt. There will be days you want to quit, and there will be people who do not understand what you are building because they cannot see it the way you can. That is fine. You were never required to explain your vision to people who were never going to walk the path with you anyway. One day, and I promise you this day will come if you stay the course, you will look back at this very moment, this ordinary evening where you were simply listening, and you will recognize it as the turning point. Not because anything dramatic happened tonight, but because something inside you finally decided. So let me leave you with this. You can have what you want, not because the universe owes it to you, and not because wanting it hard enough will magically deliver it to your doorstep. You can have it because you are capable of becoming the person who earns it. One decision, one disciplined day, one act of persistence at a time. The harvest is coming for the person who plants. The breakthrough is coming for the person who refuses to quit one day too early. The life you have been dreaming about is closer than you think, and it has been waiting patiently for you to finally decide. So decide today, not tomorrow, not someday, today. And then go build the life you were always capable of living, the life that has been waiting for you all along, patiently, quietly, until you finally said yes to it.